He didn't start. Darian Johnson got a lot of snaps last week. Are you happy with what you saw from him?
Say that one more time.
I said he didn't start. Darian Johnson got a lot of snaps. Are you happy with what you saw?
Actually, Tadarian Johnson graded out one of the best of anyone on the team last week. You know, he was physical. He was one of the guys I called out on Sunday, and I thought it was by far the best game that he's played since he's been here.
Were you satisfied with the extra practice snaps between your quarterback and your center?
Well, I don't know. The lights have been on, so I mean, they've been hanging out after practice for quite some time, and it's not just them, because when they stand there, I make the coaches who are responsible for those players have to kind of stand there as well, you know, because I want to know how it turns out. So let's just say there were less issues than the week before, and it still wasn't perfect, but there were less issues, like the infamous penalty on 10 guys, you know, a first.
Charlie, you told a story on the show last night about Jake Love on one of those plays at the end of the game when he kind of peeled off a blitz.
It was the second of those two big plays.
Is he an instinctive football player? I mean, I think people think of him as kind of a hard-nosed, tough kid, but is he more than just that?
Well, you have to be to make that play. You know, now the first play, he was just being a football player. You know, he had a tackle out there, you know, who he knows he can out-athlete, and he had another guy in the vicinity, so he kind of split through, torqued his body and made the play. But this one, he was blitzing, and he was coming clean, and he said, something's not right here. I mean, and he goes, you know, for me to be this close, and then, you know, for me to be this close, and then they just let me go, so he just pulled off. You know, that's, you know, there's a lot of defensive linemen, as a matter of fact, that are really a pain in the butt on screens, because, you know, you'll have everything set up, but the defensive lineman will just stop rushing, and then all of a sudden they're peeling off and making a play on the screen. And you say, you know, why is that? And that's because, you know, the phrase we always say, if you smell a rat, it's a rat. Okay, well, you know, that's what Jake did in that situation right there. And I'm glad he did, because there were two big plays in the game.
Hey, Charlie, I think last week you mentioned that the practices would be a little bit more physical. Did you get the results that you wanted, and do you keep that plan going this week, or is there kind of a breaking point where you got to kind of pull off on that?
If you're asking if we're going to pull off, not a chance. You know, okay, I'm a very superstitious person. I think the physical practice helped us last week, and they know that, you know, it's only got to go up from there. It's never going backwards. You know, it's only going forward. You know, you tote that fine line, you know, when your roster isn't real deep, of getting some guys banged up when you do that. Now, fortunately / unfortunately, the guys that, you know, get listed, like the linemen, I mean, they're not injured. They're sick. I mean, it's different. But there's, you know, I think that, you know, starting with Central Michigan, especially after the Duke game, you know, getting ready for Central Michigan, now get ready for Texas. If we don't bang, you know, Tuesday and Wednesday, then, you know, we won't be ready to play on Saturday.
Do you see similarities between KU's quarterback situation and Texas's?
No, our starter's the starter. Their backup's the starter. I mean, that's a big difference. You know, I firmly believe we're committed to this guy, you know, from the end of spring, and he's been that way the whole time, where their guy's been the backup to a very polished player who now is no longer playing.
Coach Trey Parnley makes his debut on the depth chart. Is he back?
Trey Parnley, probably the best training camp of anyone on our team. and then he banged up his elbow, and the same scrimmage that Bourbon got his ACL, and he's been out for these 3 games. To be honest with you, Trey was playing so well, we were trying to figure out how to get him in the first 3. But he's back and ready to go, so we'll try to get him into the mix this week. I mean, if you're talking, if those freshmen are anywhere close to Trey, they're not even in the same breath at this point.
Do you believe when someone takes over a new program like Texas, Charlie Strong in this situation, do you believe it's better to get them early, like you guys are now, as opposed to playing them later down the road?
Well, here's the unknown. Okay, well, let's look at it objectively. They're 1-2. They had a bye week last weekend. So they had the only 2 games they had on tape to watch were SEMO and Duke. I'm sure that there weren't anyone shaking, and there weren't any restless nights for their team when they watched those 2 games. They're sitting there and saying, "And this is what we're playing next." I would think that they, after watching those 2 games and then having a week, a couple of days off or something like that, feel pretty good about, rolling into Lawrence for the start of their conference season. So, that being said, too, if all of a sudden it's halftime, this game is close, which I expect it's going to be, I think that whole perspective changes.
Would you rather have more time to see their film? I mean, I'm sure you've watched plenty of Louisville and all that.
I would have rather played them 3 weeks ago, as early as possible, but, with all the stuff that's going on, that's going to work one of 2 ways. There's no in between here. Either there's going to be more guys go. I remember my first year at that other place I was at, I had let some people go, and one guy came in to me and says, "I don't like where I am in the depth chart." I said, "Well, go ahead and leave." He goes, "You need me." I said, "I don't need you." I said, "Go ahead and leave. You can go anywhere you want. Go ahead." I said, "You're not that good." And then, of course, I'm obnoxious for saying that, just by telling the kid the truth. By the way, he never played it down anywhere the rest of his career. Yeah, he did leave, went to another school, never played it down. I'm not going there, but he never played it down. He transferred, he never played it down. Next 2 years of college, never played it down.
Charlie, before the year, you talked about your defense having the potential to be salty. Is this kind of what you expected through 3 weeks? Kind of the performance you
Well, I
had?
mean, other than the big plays in the Duke game, and then, the fourth quarter in the SEMO game, I mean, there's been a lot of good defensive play, but there also has been, we can't give up big plays. And then we can't get into a situation like we did in the fourth quarter at SEMO and let them, all of a sudden somebody get into a rally. But you look at last week, if you play like we did last week, it's not perfect, but you end up giving 10 points up for the game. I mean, if we're playing a game, in that vicinity, in the 20s, I think that we'll always have a chance. I think where we'll have a problem is if we get one of these games where you're playing in the 40s. The 30s and 40s are a little different for us right there. And I don't think their defense wants to see that anyway.
Was that performance from your front 7 and especially D-line exactly well-timed, considering what you're going to face this week?
I think that the game played out, I don't do the schedule, but the game played out well from that game to this game we're playing right now. I mean, because this team's got a lot of good physical players. I mean, the running backs are physical to start off with, so you got to expect them to come in and just figure they're going to pound us. And then on the other side of the ball, the defense, I mean, they don't have a glaring weakness at any position. You might say, well, BYU scored a bunch of points on them. You know, I could come back and say it was 6-0 at halftime. You know, so, I mean, I have a lot of respect for them and a lot of concern.
You do anything different for the homecoming, or does anyone on your staff do anything different regarding that? As far as motivation, preparation, any of that stuff? Not X's and O's.
We got some players, players coming in that'll be on the sideline for the game. You know, a couple of players have buys that are coming in for games. So, you know, we'll check and see how that all works out scheduling wise later this week. You know, both John and Clint will go to that, you know, that pep rally type thing Friday night. You know, so we have the offense and the defense both represented. Figure they can take their kids, you know, and enjoy themselves, you know, for that thing Friday night. But other than that, I think that until the game's over, I think it's all business.
You've always talked about, you know, hey, 6 o'clock start, come on out, it's a great day, come support us. This isn't obviously 6 o'clock, but you lay that out to the fans, hey, this is a good thing to do. Do you feel the same way about homecoming? It seems like these things, you know, kind of mean something to you. And
Yeah, it definitely means something to me. You know, I didn't go to school here, but I think that the football team should be definitely involved with the student body, and the student body should be definitely involved with the football team. And I think that, to be honest with you, I was pleased in the last game. You know, weather's, you know, imminent weather, you know, was supposed to be terrible. And, you know, then you have a little extra delay at halftime. And I thought a lot of them were still there in the second half. Now, would I've liked 15,000 more? You betcha. Okay? I'd like the place filled every single game. But, I mean, let's look at it. I mean, we're 2-1. Okay, it's not been pretty, but you're 2-1. It's homecoming. Texas is rolling into town. Saturday afternoon, it's going to be 80 degrees and sunny. Okay, and it's 3 o'clock. There's no excuse. Okay, they have plenty of time Saturday night. Okay, so, you know, by 6:30 they're free. Okay, just come give us from 3 to 6:30. That's all. 3.5 hours. That's it.
ever any thought of those former players that are coming back talking to teams? Do you do that stuff?
They have.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not on game day though, or do they?
once.
Okay.
Yeah. He's 0-1. He'll be here again this week. I might give him an opportunity to talk again, see if he can improve his record.
How about, do you have any update on Skyler Miles? Is he, what's his?
He's behind those other guys,
Okay.
you know,
Is he
so.
healthy?
Not fully healthy.
Okay.
How do you feel about your kicker position right now? Do you still feel good about it?
Well, I mean, you could ask them the same question, I guess. Same 50%. Do I think our kicker is capable of being a much higher percentage kicker than that? I think he is. If I thought that the young guy would give us a better chance to win, I'd put him in there. Wouldn't, but based off of the evidence we have in practice, that's not the case. Ever, you know, right now, we think that this guy gives us the best chance, and we're sticking with him.
Thought about, it seems like all throughout college football, teams are always kind of looking for kickers. It seems like there's maybe 10 or 15 really elite guys, and then you get down into the mid-range, and it seems like it's kind of hit or miss. Is that, do you see that?
But see, when you go to all these kicking camps and the ratings of all these players, I mean, you know, you'll get guys that are highly rated that come in here, and then all of a sudden, when there's 40, 50, 60,000 people in the stadium, it's not so easy to make those kicks anymore. You know, so I think there's only a handful of guys in the country that really pan out to be those frontline kickers. And I think that You know, I think in our case right here, I think we're kicking the guy that gives us the best chance to win. You know, he's had excuses on a couple of kicks. This past week, the one he missed, he had no excuse. And he knows that. That's no big secret.
Real quick, Rodriguez Coleman was a guy who had a good spring. Is he still just battling on the depth chart?
He's not on it right now, is he? All right, so then don't expect to see him playing. Nigel King is playing really good, to tell you the truth. You know, if we were playing 4 wide receivers, Nigel King would be starting. But I think that Nigel King gives us the best chance, backing up both Tony and Justin. He gives us the best chance to win.
He's been about what you thought he was, hasn't he? King?
He's a tough guy now. You know, he's a lot like McKay. Probably, you know, a little bit more athletic than Justin. You know, but you know, a lot like Justin. You know, Justin's just going so hard, you know, every single week, and just gotten better, you know, every day, where it's tough to justify, you know, just taking him off the field. And last week, you know, paid dividends for him and for us.